Hey guys, Verbal Engine 95, recording live from Logan County Prison Cell. I'm going to be doing another another death battle analysis, a death battle idea analysis. This one was actually commented to me yesterday, and usually I don't look at comments that much. Usually I'm like, this is a little weird. Like, I don't want it, like, usually I'm just like, yeah, I've every episode of Death Battle, there's always a comment section that's like, flooded with ideas. Uh, so whenever you do something like this, even though I don't get that many comments on most of my videos, I'll always get comments of, oh, do this one, do this one, do this one, right? I'm not and normally I just ignore those because they're everywhere. But I will see one every now and again, and I'll be like, shit, that's pretty good. That's pretty much where I am with these death battles I do now. It's like I see so many, right? I see so many death battle suggestions and requests that I'm like, I just see one that makes me go, fuck, I think that works. You know what I mean? Like, that one sounds good. Like that's where I was with the Pyrrha Kakyoin one, where I'm like, damn, that actually is pretty good. It's one-sided as hell, but that's pretty good. Or the one I just re-uploaded yesterday, with the Giorno versus Joker. Where now I meant to do that one a month ago, but yeah, where I'm like, shit, that works. When I did that at first, I was like, I didn't think about that. And usually it's the ones that don't seem to make a lot of sense at first glance, and then you look at them and you're like, whoa, that actually is really good. Like, there's a theme behind that. That's pretty cool. And that's where I kind of got this, because I never would have thought of this. Um, this was one recommended. I'm not going to say the guy's name, because I don't have permission. But it's Aang from Avatar, and Yugo from Wakfu, the Netflix series. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say something. I did like Avatar a lot, when it was on. I'm not one of those diehard fanboys, and I actually hated Korra. I'm gonna get slack for that, but Korra, I just didn't like. Korra, I thought was, let's not get into that now. Wakfu is the kind of show I couldn't watch, not because it's bad or too colorful or because of how it's portrayed, but because I'm the kind of guy who can't watch a show that only starts getting good after a certain point. It's like if I'll watch the first couple episodes of something, and if I don't like it, I'm not gonna keep watching it. I'll watch, and if I like it, I'll keep going. I'm not, so like people try to convince me to watch things, and I'm like, those first few episodes better be good, because even shows that I know get better, like Wakfu or Generator Rex or stuff like that. Even shows that I know get better, if I'm watching the series for the first time and I'm not into the first few episodes, I just can't do it. I'm just not going to do it. So, I couldn't watch something like Wakfu. I know what happens in it, because my friends have constantly told me. I know how good seasons 2 through whatever are. It's just the fact that I can't watch it. It's not a show I can watch. But that didn't stop me from, again, knowing the character well enough and, actually knowing what happened in the show because my friends talk about it. So anyway, Aang, let's start him out because I've been talking for a while. So Aang, we should all know Aang from Avatar The Last Airbender. He's as the name would imply, last airbender after the Fire Nation wiped out the air temples. And he's also destined to be the Avatars, which means he was destined to master all 4 elements of bending. So he can bend earth, water, fire, air, all of that. He's obviously much more adept at airbending. He learned firebending from his, arch enemy at the time. Learned waterbending from his future wife, and learned earthbending from one of his longtime friends. So I would say, I'm not going to go and say like, oh, he's most adept at. He's obviously most adept at airbending. But he would, you would assume he was least adept at earthbending because it's his opposite. But, it's actually he actually seems probably more adept at that than anything else. Fire and water are probably his weak points, to be honest. But so when you get into something like and then of course he's got the Avatar mode, which increases his bending capabilities to an almost godlike level, because in the Avatar mode, you're able to access the powers and abilities of, like, the powers, wisdom, knowledge, and abilities of all the past avatars. You were at the time, fucking Korra. Right, yeah, so Aang is able to, he I forget what number bender he was. He was he was one of the high ones. He was a really high up number bender that he was able to master all. Yeah, he was able to, so, him having that prowess means, his bending power and capability becomes umpteen times better, to the point where he's able to basically flawlessly manipulate them, and also manipulate them to such degrees that it's inhuman. And I mean, none of these powers are human, but like, master firebenders aren't generally able to bend as well as Aang, can in the Avatar state. Now there's like the sun rising makes their firebend. There's all that. There's also that point where, like, the moon and the sun influence his powers and everything. But generally, and then he's got the glider and all that, but that doesn't really, like, come into play with fighting. He's also kind of a pacifist, so he doesn't like killing. He didn't even like killing Ozai, which is not killing Hitler, to be honest. Fire Hitler. So, Aang is kind of a character that, the character himself is pretty simplistic, and then, the traits and everything is pretty simplistic. But let's go on to Yugo, because there's Yu-Gi-Oh. Let's go. What's going on, guys? No, I'm kidding. Let's go on to Yugo, who is more of a character that I can actually talk about and explain his powers a little bit more. So Yugo is an heliotrope, which is which is basically like a creature of, I don't want to say part dragon. It's like its own creature. Basically, in the world of Wakfu, there is an energy source called Wakfu, which is, aura, the force, the morphing grid, whatever you want to call it. It's a life force inside all living beings and all of that. It's, it's that kind of thing. So as an heliotrope, he's able to sense and harness this force of Wakfu, meaning that he's able to, he doesn't need his other senses to sense when he has like a sixth sense of Wakfu, and also he's able to manipulate it as an energy source. Primarily through the ability of portals, which he can use to, he can create portals, and that can take him from one place to another. Now, originally it was just a short kind of hop sort of thing. Then he started being able to do greater distances. Then he started being able to do greater portals, like greater numbers in portals, so he could make multiple ones. And then he started developing actual techniques from it. Like, for instance, he's able to, by generating multiple portals in close proximity to each other, he can basically move at, incredibly high speeds. And by overlapping two portals, he's able to use the energy created from it to actually shoot a beam of energy. And he's also very creative in terms of how he uses, he's able to generate this energy to, like, he can shoot the beam into a portal and have it come out of another portal. So there's that kind of mentality to it as well. And then the other ability he has is that he's able to generate... Originally he wasn't able to do this, but then after training, he was able to generate wings from his head, so he can fly, made of Wakfu, and he can also create weapons out of Wakfu, and he usually uses a sword and a shield. And they're usually pretty durable. I believe the sword has cut a dragon, and the shield was able to survive a potentially, like, planet-destroying level energy blast. Not planet-destroying, like, island-destroying level energy blast. And then the other part of it is that there is a plot device, basically, in the show called the Ilia Cube, which powers up his Wakfu energy to exponential amounts, to the point where the shield and sword, those feats I mentioned, were actually under the influence of the Ilia Cube, to where he can, cut a dragon, and he can survive these giant attacks. He can actually create, he was able to create, like, dozens of portals at a time with the Ilia Cube, and he was even able to create a portal large enough to teleport an island, and also create portals that could traverse dimensions. But it's weird, because, like, it's a portal that takes you from one place to another. I would assume you were going through a dimension anyway, but whatever. And, and with the Ilia Cube, that high-speed movement that I mentioned actually becomes akin to, it becomes akin to, faster than the human eye can travel movement. And with the beam, that actually becomes akin to, like, that becomes akin to, like, the type of thing he survived with, like, the island-destroying levels of power. So he's actually, with this cube, he becomes incredibly powerful, but the thing is, he has to have it on him, and, as far as I know, he's not in, like, possession of it. He doesn't, like, keep it on him, but it is a plot device that actually, they would put it in Death Battle if that were the case. They would put it in the fight itself. I don't know if they would put it in the analysis. They'd be like, if he doesn't have the cube on him, he can't do that. That would probably, yeah. But, so who do I think would win here? So, from seeing this fight as it is, I would say that Aang probably has the advantage in terms of being able to, in terms of versatility of his attacks, right? Being able to use the earth beneath him, being able to use the wind, being able to generate fire. He has to have water near him. Aang is semi-restricted to his elements. The only element you can generate yourself is fire. But if you're standing on the ground, you have the earth at your disposal. If you're in open space, you have the air at your disposal. Right? And if you're near water, you have the water at your disposal. So, like, he's never really without a weapon. That's actually considered the reason why they took out the air temples first, is because they were the only people that weren't restricted in their, and then they took out the earth because they had also the ground beneath them. Whatever, let's not get into that. The other thing is that I'm inclined to believe that Wakfu only exists in the world of Wakfu. So I'm more inclined to believe that there's a possibility Yugo wouldn't be able to sense Aang or determine his movements purely through that. But even if he could, Aang's not being stealthy most of the time by throwing elements at people. So that's not really something you should really be worried about. The teleportation aspect and, like, the being able to shoot beams from behind people and stuff, that's one thing. These beams generally aren't super lethal at base power, so it's not like, oh, if he'll one-shot Aang with a beam. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he could probably hurt Aang pretty bad, but I don't think he's going to kill him. And the real climax of this fight would be the Avatar State and the Ilia Cube boosted Yugo. In which case, I would say that Aang probably still has the advantage there, because even though the Avatar State is temporary, Aang did learn to harness it, not on command, but just, like, he was more adept at how it came about by the end of the series. And if you go on to the books after and everything. And also, it's more like he's been knocked out of the Avatar state, but that was from what would be a lethal blow, you know. So if you're gonna kill him anyway, it wouldn't matter, if he got knocked out of the Avatar state. The Ilya Cube is just something that if it's not in his hand, he doesn't have access to it. So I would say that Aang has the advantage there, probably just being able to use wind to knock it out of his hand. And just the fact that no matter what Yugo does, now Yugo can generate his energy from anywhere, and he can also, like I said, use the portals to his advantage to be able to come at Aang from anywhere. But the fact that Aang can attack with a multitude of things from pretty much pretty much anywhere, he can use the wind however he wanted. He could use the earth underneath. That just gives it a big level of that just gives him a really big level of diversity. So I would say that Aang actually has the advantage here, and I would now Aang being a pacifist. Then again, Yugo's also doesn't like to kill either. So either of these guys really killing each other doesn't seem likely. But I did a Steven Universe and Finn the Human death battle, so what the fuck do I care, Anyway, yeah, I think that Aang would win in this case. So anyway, this was a good fight idea, and I guess I'll probably see you next time. Rebel Engine 95, yeah.